Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Vanderslice, who's the president and founder of Federal Benefits Made Simple. Ann, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Hey, you're welcome, and I look forward to learning more about your business because I love when you see the title of a business that is just descriptive and exactly what you focus on. And I think that most people like to have things made simple for them. So Federal Benefits Made Simple sounds really exciting. Give us, before we dive into that, give us a little background on your entrepreneurial journey, what led you into the financial services industry, and then how, at what point did you decide, you know what, I'm going to start my own firm?
Well, my background was in corporate America. I worked for an entrepreneur who owned about 25 different assorted businesses and never really had this burning desire to own my own business. Mm-hmm. But after we had sort of a death and a divorce at the same time in that particular company. And so all my friends said, oh, you should go into sales. And, I thought, okay, maybe I could do that. And if you're going to go into sales, you should pick something really hard to sell. So I went to work for General Electric selling long-term care insurance.
Okay.
And that really started my career in financial services back in 2000. And in 2002, the federal government rolled out their group long-term care coverage. And they didn't really have anybody to explain it to their employees. And so I was contacted by a few agencies, and it turned out that I had a knack for taking something complicated like long-term care and being able to explain it in simple terms. And at that point, they asked me to come back and learn their benefits. So the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Now, it makes me think, what was it about you that made these several agencies reach out and connect with you? How did they know that you existed? Had you just done some training for organizations?
I had done some training, and I had done a little bit of email marketing to federal employees that were in Colorado. So I had started some outreach about long-term care benefits to federal employees, and then that came back around. They said, I got your email, and I was wondering if you could do training for our agency.
Yeah. And then I'm sure at that point you were not thinking, yeah, I certainly will, and then I'm going to build my entire career around this one topic. So how did that momentum take place as you went forward and then started doing your training and then just kind of saw that whole universe there open up for you, I'll bet?
When you look at any business, as the business owner, you're looking for an opportunity, right? You're looking for a need in the market. And there were no shortage of federal employees with questions about their benefits. And the more I learned about their benefits and how great they were, the more I realized that most federal employees didn't know it. They didn't understand this wide spectrum of benefits that they had. Yeah. And so that really kind of got me excited because I saw that there was really a need for individuals to have their questions answered.
You know, when you said didn't know, it reminds me of something that happened to me several years ago. One of the many things I do in marketing is I teach marketing for a few universities, and one of the schools that I taught for like 10 years, maybe 4 years ago, I just happened to get this letter in the mail, and they're like, oh, here's this, retirement account. And I'm like, junk mail. And I open it up, and apparently way back in the day, they had opened up a retirement account, I think a 401k or something, and they were just putting in whatever percentage, just something in, and I had no clue. I just got my direct deposit and went about my day. I didn't even know. I didn't make elections or anything. And now there's like $12,000 in there, and I'm going, wow, that's a nice little surprise. But to your point, people need to know. I'll bet you there's some other benefit. There's probably some travel benefit that I've got that I don't even know about. So talk a little bit about some of these top benefits that you work with your clients to help them realize that they have access to.
Well, the number one benefit that most federal employees understand but aren't quite sure what it means to them is the fact that they'll have a pension at the end of their career, which is almost unheard of today. Only about 16% of Americans work in a job where at the end of their career they'll earn a pension. Most of them understand that pension. They don't understand the requirements to get it. How old do I have to be? How many years of service? And then that there's a sweet spot beyond their first eligibility. If they're willing to work until they're 62, there's a little 10% bump in their pension because they've worked till 62. So a lot of people don't realize that. The other big one is their health benefits. Imagine having a career where when you retired, you got to take your health insurance with you into retirement, and your employer continued to pay 72% of the premium, and you paid 28% for the rest of your life.
And I'll bet it's a good plan, a health insurance plan as well on top of that.
It's even better than a good plan.
Yeah.
There are 6 national plans that they can choose from. No matter where they live in the United States, they have a choice of 6 plans. And then depending on where they live, there might be 5 to 10 additional regional plans they can choose from. So not only do they have a great plan, they have choices to be able to match what their actual healthcare needs are.
Yeah, and I would suspect that you get a lot of shocked responses when people go, hold up, you mean I can take it with, and then they're going to pay. And so that's quite interesting. So what's another one of the ahas that you get when you're working with some of your clients?
Well, believe it or not, it's really in their savings. It's the same thing that you mentioned. I get this envelope in the mail, and it says that I have $12,000 in an account that I didn't even know I had. Federal employees who I would say maybe have at least 10 years of tenure, they've been around a while, all at least know the TSP exists. For newer federal employees, they often don't even realize that it exists. So if they started after a certain date, they got an automatic 3% contribution. They were automatically enrolled. If they started after a later date, they were automatically enrolled to contribute 5%. So somebody just signed them up, sort of like someone just signed you up. And that same somebody, if you will, and it's not actually a person, it's a system, picked their allocation for them.
Yeah, some standard default,
Yes. Allocation. And so that, I think, is the biggest for a younger federal employee, someone who's newer to federal service, is just understanding, this is sort of autopilot, but I really ought to be paying attention to it. And maybe what they have me contributing isn't enough to get me to my goals.
Yeah. And at that point, I'm sure that they've got a manual 6 inches thick, almost, to go, and here's all of your choices and allocations, and just let us know. And they're staring at it like a calf at a new gate going, I have zero clue what to do here.
Yes, absolutely.
So it makes me think of like the traditional retirement planning firm where, you will make recommendations and charge whatever fee or assets under management, or, hey, you need life insurance and here's this, and there's commissions involved. How does it work when you are advising a federal employee? Because your firm has to get paid by somebody to do some work. How does that work? Is the employee paying you for a package to help them optimize and maximize their benefits?
We have a different model, and that is we're going to help you first. We're going to get you on the right path with your benefits and with a strategy for retirement. And that could mean that you're a new employee and you're 25 years from retirement. It could mean you're in the middle of your career. It could mean I'm retiring on December 31st and I haven't really thought about this yet. So wherever you are in your career, we are your resource for what you should be doing at that point in your career and setting your plan or setting your course. We don't get paid to do that. That is a complimentary service we offer all federal employees. Those people who are retiring now need a different sort of planning because they're now moving into that distribution phase of their life. And although we may have given them advice about how to allocate their TSP all along the way, they're now at the point that they want to use that TSP. That's when they actually become our clients. That's when we implement the strategies along the way. Now, that doesn't mean that their spouse doesn't have an old 401k lying around that we move, and we do manage the assets. We absolutely do that. We're a full service financial planning firm. But really, if you're just a federal employee and you're looking at what we do, there's a lot of work that happens before you actually cross that retirement finish line. You're
playing the long game.
Absolutely.
And if you're thinking of like everybody, no matter what service or industry you're thinking about, it could be, buying a car or an attorney or whatever, you're thinking in the back of your mind, who do I pick? Who do I work with? Do I trust them? And just hearing what you're saying so far and what you've said just right there makes me think, okay, you're not in it for the quick buck. You're not trying to make a quick sale. You're not giving me advice to go, just get into this right now. What's it going to take to get into this? You're giving advice many, 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 many long months and years down the road before you might even make any kind of financial transaction benefit. You're giving and serving and providing value upfront. And to me, that's quite an astounding business model.
And it's worked great for us. And you are a little surprised by it. So are our clients. So are federal employees. They're like, well, on one hand, I want to be sure you're here 10 years from now when I retire. So how are you getting paid? It is a volume model, right? Yeah. As long as you continue to have interested federal employees that you're working with in that planning, we roughly know that we'll have 300 clients retire this year.
Yeah.
So I can help all these other people who are just on their path.
Yeah. Knowing that it's the model you've set, it's the risk that you take. And so here's a question. What are some of if you've got someone you've worked with for several years, let's say, while they're a federal employee, and you've made certain recommendations of whatever allocations and things like that, how does that change when they move out of the federal world into making other decisions? Are those same strategies similar? Because you might have advised them 1 or 2 years before they retired, so they're still at that age demographic. Does the whole game change, or are they feeling like, oh, well, been working for Ann for many years, and now I'm retiring, and she's making those recommendations that she's making now for my next few years' future, those sound about the same, but she's making a little extra little polishes. Do things stay similar, or are they totally different when they get out into the civilian life per se?
They definitely are very similar because we've been walking along this path that's leading them to what it will look like when they're retired. Yeah. So it's not, it's this while you're working, and now we're going to flip a switch, and now it's completely different. Everything, if you were 15 years from retirement, we'd show you what it's going to look like 15 years from now, so that you can see every step along the way, we're making this transition here. We're making a little change here, just so that when you're ready to retire, it's all very comfortable for you because you've seen that path, and what we suggested was going to happen is actually what happened.
And some of the strategies that you're recommending, you're like, okay, and now some of the federal benefits you have at your disposal right now to accomplish this goal and strategy, we need to do it this way. Well, then the overarching umbrella 30,000-foot view of the strategies you're recommending in the next stage of their life, remember when we were talking about you need to make sure you accomplish, okay, so now remember we had this tool and this opportunity and asset class or whatever. Well, now the same kind of thing in the outside world is this kind of a plan, product, tool, whatever. And so it kind of, to me, it seems like the dotted line connection that they're going, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I understand. Because you've been teaching and training and guiding them the whole way.
That's exactly our philosophy, is to help them understand as much as they can wherever they are in their career. Here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. What are the stages or the steps we need to take to get there? Yeah.
And do you find that, again, I use the phrase long game, and you're like, yeah, well, you might have a spouse that has a 401k and he's rolled over, or a cousin that, comes to you because Do you find that as you start working with people that they start going, man, I've got to figure a way to pay you. How can I refer someone? And you're like, oh, well, just keep your eye open for people who, and then it just kind of, they feel like they appreciate your advice so much that it becomes easy to introduce you to their family and their network.
Yes, and I mean, I have to say that this is probably being in any niche, but certainly in the federal niche, is that they share their experiences with their colleagues.
Yeah.
That absolutely happens. But if someone, let's just say they're 40 years old, and they describe their experience has been terrific, and they're like, I feel a little guilty that, you've given me so much and I'm not paying you. I'll remind them that there are more ways to be paid than just in money.
Yeah.
And sometimes you make a commission or you get paid a fee. Sometimes someone actually takes your advice. That actually is a benefit, right? That's a way you get paid, is if somebody uses the resources that you've given them, or you can share our information with your colleagues, and we'd love to work with them as well. And they often say, oh, I already have.
Yeah.
But anytime you have that conversation, I just remind them, you're thinking that I only get paid in terms of dollars, but there's lots of ways I can be paid.
I was watching a show on Discovery Plus the other night about, it's just, I love business shows, and this one is called Undercover Billionaire, and it's, have you ever seen that show or heard of it?
No, I don't know.
It's really a neat concept, but they took these three high power business professionals. And in fact, have you ever heard of Grant Cardone?
Oh, yeah.
Sales trainer. So he's one of them. I happened to see, he was on the show. Well, anyway, Grant Cardone, well-to-do, wealthy, and all that. They took three people like him and they said, okay, you're going to a town you've never been to before. We're changing your name. We're giving you a $100 bill and an old truck. And you have to build $1 million business in 90 days. And I'm like, ooh, this is a cool show. Anyway, it's been really neat. It's like, 10, 12, 15 episodes. They're about an hour and a half each. And so I'm about halfway through. It's just really fun to see, what they go through. But what you just said made me think of one of the episodes where this one guy in one of the scenarios was a chef, and he's trying to make his break. And one of the key people, the influencers that was building this business, reached out to the chef and said, look, you need a break. And so what I want you to do is, do this project and this. And he goes, you know what? I do need to make money and earn money, but let me just tell you something. When I make my dishes and my food and I see people rave and enjoy it and just be enthralled in what I just made for them, that just means the world to me. So yes, he needs to pay the bills and sell some food and things, but your point about seeing people take the advice and then maybe even come back and go, Ann, it just feels so good to have done that thing you said, and wow, that's really neat. That becomes a fuel for you, and of course you need to earn commissions to pay your light bill and things like that. But I think that's an overlooked factor that a lot of people don't think about is, please, when Ann gives you advice, make sure when you implement it, let her know what some of the results are, even if it's just thank you so much. It feels good to have implemented that.
Absolutely. And they really, it can work both ways. I've had it work both ways where people come back and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I had this amount of money in my TSP because I just saved 3% more than I was saving from the advice you gave me. You told me this would work, and look at this now. Or the flip side is they come back 5 or 6 years later. I just had this happen, and she said, I'm embarrassed to tell you I did not take your advice. I did something different. I'm in trouble, and now I promise you, whatever you tell me to do, I will do.
Well, when you work with some people that have been in the system for many, many years, I'm sure that they can pull up reports and go, hey, look at the last 3 years, and then look at the last year we've been working together and look at the results. You can show exactly, wow, without my advice, you were getting X returns. And look at, since we've implemented these things, look at this. Or maybe they say, look, you know what? I heard some of my colleagues, they said they took a big hit on whatever, and mine is right there on the money. So I think that's a neat feeling as well. So I think that I heard this on a podcast just last week that someone told them that was something they had done recently, just on a personal level, just really impacted their life positively. And this person said, I have made it a goal now to anytime I think of, oh, this person really would, I'm going to reach out and tell them. I'm going to make sure that, because it just brightens your day. So I would encourage people to, when Ann gives advice and you implement it and see some results, get back to her and let her know, hey, thank you, because yeah, it's not a dollar amount, but it's just a nice little endorphin boost for the team.
Yes, it is.
Well, Ann, I just really enjoyed chatting with you here. So if there's anyone interested in reaching out and connecting with you, learning more about what you can do to help them understand and maximize and optimize their federal benefits, what's the best way that they can reach out and connect with you?
They can go to our website, Federal Benefits Made Simple, and they could sign up for our monthly newsletter, where they'll get information about what's going on with federal benefits. There are lots of changes always, either proposed or that actually get implemented. And then also, if you're a webinar viewer, you like to participate in webinars, we do 2 or 3 webinars a month just on bite-sized topics relatable to federal employees.
Excellent. And I will make sure to have that URL for your website in the show notes. And I really appreciate you coming on. It was a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.